Hi, I'm Serdar Wana. Today I would like to tell you about an interesting topic. Maybe you have also thought about this issue. This question, maybe you have found the answer, maybe you have not found it. Which I've been asked a few times. Asked on my YouTube channel. I think there were even people who asked from Instagram. That question is, how do we choose our amp and speaker when building a music system? What should be the power ratio? So if the amplifier should be more powerful than the loudspeaker? Or should the speaker be more powerful than the amplifier? The first answer that comes to mind here is usually this: if I take the speaker stronger than the amplifier, there won't be any problems. But that's not actually the case. The opposite is the case. A powerful speaker and an amplifier that is weaker or even weaker than it is a very dangerous combination. The opposite is a much healthier combination. Why is this happening? I want to explain it a little bit. Let's say you have a strong loudspeaker and a rather weak amplifier compared to it. There is a situation where, for example, you are listening to music where you are sitting, your loudspeaker is at a power of 200 watts and the amplifier is at a power of 15 or 20 watts. You are trying to achieve a certain music level and you turn up the volume. If that's not enough, you open it up a little bit more, and finally you come to the limits of that amplifier. Your amp starts to do this. When you start pushing those boundaries a little bit, it normally creates a sine wave to create the amp sound. The sound signal is a wave like this, but if you push the amp too hard, when it tries to climb above his own power level, he starts to clip the top of the incoming sine signal. When it is amplifying it, that is, it cuts that power level where it can no longer stand at where he ends, it goes downwards, it goes down again. At the bottom it cuts again, going upwards. While the sine signal should be like this, something like this would happen, a square wave, so those who are interested in electronics may know it already. It is one of the most disliked wave types of speaker systems, because this square wave pushes the thing very hard. In particular, it forces all kinds of speakers, but especially it is a type of signal that will cause Twitter to burn very quickly in a very short time, and maybe a slight distortion may be reflected in your ear before you even notice the distortion of the sound. Maybe you feel like the amp is running out of power, but in the meantime, it burns his Twitter.
Here is a quick demonstration to clipping. Let's say your gain is at max, right? You go up volume. Ding. That's clipping, and then the more you go, you hear that?
The way to prevent this situation may be by having a balanced power for our loudspeaker. At least if the amp and the loudspeaker powers are close each other, or a more powerful amplifier can be even better. Because the reason for that is that the stronger you have, the more powerful you have an amplifier. We will have an amplifier which can reproduce the sound without disturbing that sine signal so much. Maybe in our daily listenings, we would normally won't go more than 10 or 20 watts, even if you go out loud in most of your listening. But I'm talking about the average power of the music. What do they call it when it hits the drum very strongly at rated power but in some parts of the music or so much? When there are other low-frequency sounds, such as in movies and so on, in those explosion sounds, these are also very big powers momentarily. Which I mean, it can occur instantaneously. Both that momentary thing and the signal are properly functioning in the right way of the amplifier. In other words, in order to be able to produce that clip without entering the in or without entering the cut, that power reserve, that is, maybe 20 watts average, but suddenly 200 sinks when there is a need for power, having an amplifier that can give that power will prevent the distortion of the sound and will make the speaker work much healthier. It will prevent you from incurring any losses. Well, you might think, yes, okay, my amplifier is strong, relatively strong. Let's say it's 250 watts amplifier. Let's imagine you have a loudspeaker of 50 watts. When I push the 50-watt cabinet with 200 watts of power, won't this thing break down? Will the speaker not break? Yes, it can be broken, but this possibility is much more less. Because the first one is that no matter how hard you try, you're not going to see a square wave in this amplifier. Secondly, even if it is a 40-50 watt speaker, even if it is a 20 or 30 watt speaker, the sound levels that created with that 20 watts or so much power are so high that your ear does not want it anyway, and it becomes a situation where there is enough music volume. You've reached. So you're less likely to go any further from there. Moreover, even if you try to go, that is, when you try to push a speaker of 20 or 30 watts even more, you will get the first signals from other speakers, so when the speaker somehow reaches the end of its mechanical limits, its sound will start to deteriorate, but it will not immediately enter the tendency to burn as much as when the square wave comes. And since this will take some time to damage this way, you will notice that the sound is already distorted and that something bad is happening, and you will turn down the volume, so you will probably be much less likely to damage the loudspeaker. This is a technical issue like this, and I pay a lot of attention to the thing. When I first started listening to this music, my brother-in-law was very interested in these issues related to hi-fi systems. My aunt's husband. He suggested this to me, and he always said, after listening to the music, turn amplifier's volume down to the lowest position and leave it that way. The next time you power it up, you may turn up the volume to a very high level from the previous session. And if you leave it that way, and power up the amplifier with the volume up position, it can both damage the speaker and damage your ear. That's why I made a habit of it, and I think benefiting from it. That's my explanation in terms of protecting both the amplifier and the cabinets. You may have different views or experiences on this subject. That is, if you have had such experiences. I would love to hear about these experiences and these opinions. So let's ever say your Twitter has ever burned out because of this clipping situation. I would be glad if you write in the comments how it happened, or did the opposite happen? A speaker with a powerful amplifier, did you somehow manage to burn it up? Did you manage to break it? Did you manage to blow it up? If you mention these as well, I will be glad that there will be a nice interaction in the comments. If you like the video, please don't forget to like it. It's easy to like it. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe even if you are not my subscriber. If you want to watch similar videos to these videos on my channel. Thank you for watching so much for today. See you soon. Love.